They told you it was just pleasure, a harmless habit, a private escape, but you know the truth. You felt the emptiness, the cycle, the shame, the low energy, the fog that never quite lifts. Now imagine this, 90 days without it. No porn, no masturbation, no meaningless sex. Just you facing yourself. At first it's war. Every urge fights back. Every demon rears its head. Your body protests, your mind screams, but if you stay with it, day after day, something begins to change. Day 10, the fog lifts. You wake up clearer, more alive. You're not chasing dopamine anymore, you're living it. Day 30, you walk differently. People notice. You don't shrink anymore. Eye contact, solid. Your voice, calm, grounded. You carry yourself like someone who knows who they are. Day 60, you've got more energy than you know what to do with. So you create, you build, you work, you train. This is the fire they never told you was inside you. It was buried under clicks, screens, and habits. Day 90, you've changed. You're no longer a slave to the algorithm or the impulse. You're a leader now of yourself. You move through the world with purpose. You connect not to numbness, but to meaning. Your relationships deepen. Your mission clarifies, and your soul awakens. No, this isn't just about avoiding sex. This is about mastery, mastery of your energy, your focus, your destiny. They said it's normal to indulge. But you didn't come here to be normal. You came here to be great. So take the challenge, 90 days, face the mirror. Win the war within. Because when you do, you'll realize the person you were always meant to be was waiting for you on the other side. When you go without sex and masturbation for 90 days, one of the first changes you'll notice isn't physical, it's psychological. It's as if someone lifts a heavy, invisible curtain from your mind. The mental fog begins to clear. You start seeing your thoughts with more sharpness, more precision. The distractions that once pulled you off course lose their grip. Here's why. Compulsive sexual behavior floods your brain with dopamine over and over again. It short-circuits the reward system, focus becomes fractured, motivation becomes scattered, attention span shortens. You're not lazy, you're overstimulated. But when you cut off that flood, the brain begins to reset. Neurotransmitters balance. You're no longer chasing the next hit of pleasure. You're finally able to sit still, to concentrate, to think deeply. You notice how much noise there was before, mental chatter, cravings, intrusive thoughts, and how quiet it becomes over time. Suddenly, tasks that felt like mountains, reading a book, working on a goal, having a focused conversation, become manageable, even enjoyable. You begin operating with clarity. Your internal compass strengthens. Ideas come more easily. You start connecting dots. You become more present, able to truly listen, to truly create, to truly decide. Mental clarity doesn't just return, it sharpens. And in a world designed to distract you every second of every day, that clarity becomes your superpower. Energy, not just the kind that gets you out of bed, but the deep internal fire that fuels discipline, creation, and drive. This is one of the most noticeable transformations after 90 days without sex and masturbation. See, every time you indulge in those habits, especially in isolation or through artificial stimulation, you're draining more than just a physical release. You're letting go of vital life force energy that your body could have used to build, to grow, to regenerate, to perform. That post-release fatigue, it's not just in your body, it's in your spirit. You've trained your nervous system to expect a dopamine high for doing nothing and a crash right after. But when you hold on to that energy, when you stop releasing it constantly for quick gratification, it begins to build. You start to notice it in small ways at first. You're less tired during the day. You need less caffeine. Your workouts feel stronger. Your mind isn't dragging behind your body. And as the days pass, that energy compounds. It doesn't just stay physical. It becomes emotional, mental, even creative. You start waking up with purpose. You want to move. You want to act. You want to channel that energy somewhere into your goals, your craft, your relationships. You become more present in your body. Your voice becomes more alive. Your presence becomes magnetic. People feel the difference, even if they can't name it. This isn't some mystical force. It's biological and psychological energy being redirected. You're no longer leaking it away. You're conserving it, cultivating it, and turning it into something productive. Something powerful, something lasting. When you go 90 days without sex and masturbation, your confidence doesn't just rise. It transforms. It stops being surface level or based on appearance, status, or validation. Instead, it starts coming from something real, control. When you master your urges, especially the most primal ones, you gain a sense of inner power that radiates without words. Most people walk through life chasing pleasure, reacting to impulse, avoiding discomfort. But when you choose discipline over desire, something shifts. You know you're doing something most won't. You're not giving in. You're not seeking temporary highs. You're grounded, and that grounding gives you strength. You no longer need to prove anything. You've already proven it to yourself. This kind of confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need attention. It's calm. It's steady. It shows in the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you look people in the eye without flinching. Social anxiety, it starts to dissolve. That voice in your head that used to say you're not enough. It gets quieter, then disappears. There's also a biochemical side to this. Holding in your energy naturally boosts testosterone, improves posture, deepens your voice, sharpens your presence. You start to take up space not arrogantly, but unapologetically. People feel it. They lean in. They listen when you speak. They take you seriously, not because you asked for respect, but because you've become someone who embodies it. And because your confidence is no longer dependent on whether someone desires you, you become more attractive without trying. You're not chasing anymore, you're not needy, you're full, and that fullness draws people in. Most people think the effects of sex and masturbation are only physical or hormonal, but they run much deeper. Every time you indulge, especially through digital stimulation or casual encounters, you're not just affecting your body, you're reinforcing emotional patterns, attachments, and hidden coping mechanisms. Over time, this creates emotional clutter, a kind of background noise that dulls your sensitivity, numbs your intuition, and keeps you reacting from the same place of emptiness. When you remove these habits for 90 days, you begin to face what they were covering up. At first, it's uncomfortable. You might feel restless, agitated, or even anxious. That's because the emotions that were being buried by constant stimulation are starting to rise to the surface. Loneliness, shame, insecurity, past wounds. Instead of avoiding them, now you're sitting with them. And that's where the healing begins. Without the constant numbing, your emotional system recalibrates. You begin to notice patterns you never saw before, why certain triggers affect you, why you reach for escape in moments of stress, boredom, or rejection. You start connecting dots between your inner world and your behavior. Old wounds you never acknowledged begin to lose their grip on you. Emotional tension carried in your chest, stomach, jaw begins to soften. As the days pass, you grow more emotionally available, not just to others, but to yourself. You can feel more deeply. You laugh more genuinely. You listen more intently. You stop reacting from old pain and start responding with clarity. Your relationships shift, not because other people changed, but because your energy did. You're no longer trying to extract love or approval from others. You've started to generate it within. After 90 days without sex and masturbation, something subtle but profound begins to shift in how you relate to the world and to others. Your internal polarity begins to sharpen. Whether you identify with masculine or feminine energy, the essence of that core begins to intensify and radiate more clearly. This isn't about gender roles, this is about energetic truth. For those rooted in masculine energy, the absence of constant release strengthens direction, focus, and presence. You become less scattered, less passive, more rooted. There's a stillness in you that wasn't there before. Attention, but not one of stress. It's a stored energy, a quiet readiness. This is the kind of energy that attracts the feminine naturally, not through words, not through manipulation, but through raw, embodied presence. You listen deeper, you lead more cleanly, you don't chase, you draw. And for those grounded in feminine energy, the space created by abstaining from overstimulation allows you to soften into your own body and emotional flow. Instead of giving your energy away or seeking approval through physical connection, you begin to nurture a deeper intimacy with yourself. Your intuition sharpens, your sensuality becomes internal rather than performative, you radiate rather than reach. What makes this transformation so powerful is that it begins to restore the natural magnetic charge between the masculine and the feminine. In a culture where overstimulation blurs the lines and dulls polarity, stepping away from compulsive sexual habits creates contrast again. People feel it when you enter a room. You don't have to speak it. Your body, your eyes, your energy carry it. Interactions become more dynamic, more meaningful. You're no longer operating from emptiness, neediness, or craving. You bring a full presence to the moment, and that presence creates real connection. Where once you may have felt awkward, unsure, or disconnected, you now feel aligned, energized, and deeply tuned into your own natural rhythm. When you abstain from sex and masturbation for 90 days, the shift in physical health is more than just subtle, it's foundational. Your body, no longer subjected to constant hormonal highs and crashes, begins to stabilize. You start to feel more balanced, more energized, and more in sync with your natural biological rhythm. One of the first physical changes is in your energy levels. Frequent sexual release, especially through solo stimulation, often leaves the body in a state of recovery. It depletes zinc, weakens the nervous system temporarily, and reduces testosterone over time. Without that constant drain, your body retains vital nutrients and begins redirecting its resources to healing, growth, and strength. You sleep deeper, you wake up feeling rested, your immune system strengthens, recovery after exercise improves. You notice that your endurance, both mental and physical, gets stronger. Testosterone, especially in men, begins to regulate at a higher baseline. This isn't just about libido, it's about muscle growth, motivation, bone density, and drive. You feel more physically alive, like your body is operating closer to its intended design. Even your skin may improve, less acne, fewer breakouts, because of more hormonal balance. Hair appears healthier, eyes clearer, voice slightly deeper, posture stronger. You start to look different because your internal systems are running more efficiently. Beyond the surface, there's also a recalibration of your nervous system. Constant sexual stimulation can keep the body locked in cycles of dopamine spikes, and cortisol swings. With abstinence, the nervous system has a chance to rest, your stress tolerance increases, your breathing slows down, digestion improves, blood circulation becomes more effective, especially in areas affected by arousal. You feel more grounded, more alert, and more in command of your physical responses. Even small things you once overlooked, like your heartbeat during a workout, your posture while sitting, or your energy after meals, begin to change. Because the body is no longer being hijacked by impulsive cycles, it starts to realign with deeper states of physical integrity and resilience. When you go 90 days without sex and masturbation, the way you connect with people begins to transform. It's not just about intimacy or attraction, it's about presence. Without the fog of overstimulation and compulsive sexual energy, you begin to show up in your relationships differently. More attentive, more grounded, more real. You're no longer constantly scanning for gratification or caught up in fantasy. You're not entering interactions from a place of lack or subtle craving. Instead, you start to listen, actually listen. You hear what people are saying beneath their words. You pick up on tone, emotion, silence. You become more emotionally intelligent because your mind is no longer hijacked by urges and distraction. In romantic relationships, the shift is even more noticeable because you're not chasing validation through sex or emotional highs. You bring more patience and depth. You begin to value connection over conquest. Intimacy becomes something sacred again, not just another way to relieve pressure. Conversations deepen, trust grows. You notice when you're projecting, and you take responsibility for it. Emotional triggers that used to dominate you begin to soften. In friendships and family dynamics, you're more stable. Less reactive, more patient, you show up with energy to give, not just take. You're no longer checked out or half present because your attention isn't split. And when conflict arises, you don't run or numb, you face it with clarity. You're not dependent on others to fix your mood or feed your ego. You bring a sense of inner fullness that allows others to relax around you. This kind of presence makes people feel seen, safe, and understood. It allows for more honesty, more laughter, more connection. You're not trying to impress or manipulate. You're simply there, fully there. And that shift ripples through every interaction, creating deeper bonds, clearer boundaries, and more meaningful human connection. During a 90-day reset from sex and masturbation, something begins to stir beneath the surface of daily life, something deeper than biology or psychology. Without the constant noise of overstimulation, the deeper parts of your inner world start to emerge. You begin to notice things you used to overlook: the rhythm of your breath, the silence between thoughts, the way your emotions rise and fall like waves. What you're tapping into is more than self-control, it's spiritual awareness. Sexual energy isn't just physical, it's creative, life-giving, sacred. When it's constantly being discharged through compulsive habits, its deeper potential stays dormant. But when that energy is retained, it begins to rise through the body, transforming into awareness, intuition, and purpose. You may start to feel more connected, not just to yourself, but to something greater than you. For some, it feels like presence. For others, like God, the universe, or a deep internal intelligence. This reconnection isn't something loud or dramatic. It's subtle. It's in the quiet moments early in the morning when the world is still asleep, or at night when you're alone with your thoughts. You may feel pulled towards solitude, reflection, or prayer. You might feel inspired to journal, meditate, walk in nature, or sit in stillness, not because you have to, but because your inner world starts to call for it. You begin to crave depth over distraction. Old belief systems start to unravel. Your values shift. You feel drawn to truth, to simplicity, to meaning. External things, status, validation, temporary highs begin to lose their appeal. You become more attuned to synchronicities, more sensitive to energy, more aware of what drains you and what nourishes you. Your intuition sharpens. You start trusting it, not the mind racing for comfort, but the quiet voice beneath it. There's also a sense of alignment that begins to return, as if your body, mind, and spirit are starting to move in the same direction again. You're not scattered, pulled in a dozen directions by impulses and cravings. You feel centered, rooted, guided. That inner guidance becomes more trustworthy, more consistent, because it's no longer being drowned out by noise. Perhaps the most profound change that occurs after 90 days without sex and masturbation is the emergence of true discipline. This isn't the kind of discipline you force on yourself with harsh rules or guilt, but a deep, internalized mastery over your impulses and choices. It's the moment when you realize you are no longer a slave to your desires. You are the captain of your own ship. Discipline is born in the struggle. In those first difficult days and weeks when urges flood your mind, when every fiber of your body screams for release, and you decide to hold firm anyway, that is the crucible where discipline forms. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up and choosing yourself again and again, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the easy path calls louder. As the days turn into weeks and weeks into months, this discipline seeps into every corner of your life. You start to keep promises to yourself that once felt impossible. You wake up earlier, work harder, push through resistance in ways you never could before. Your focus sharpens because it's trained like a muscle. You stop procrastinating. You stop seeking external validation. Instead, you set goals and follow through, not because someone else told you to, but because you respect yourself. This inner discipline becomes a foundation. It creates structure, stability, and momentum. It changes how you view challenges, not as obstacles, but as opportunities to strengthen your resolve. You build resilience, patience, and self-trust. Your habits improve, and you naturally start choosing what's best for your long-term growth instead of fleeting pleasure. The transformation is visible in how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you engage with the world. You're no longer reactive. You're intentional. You lead your life rather than letting life lead you. And with this newfound control over your impulses, every other area of your life, health, relationships, career, creativity, begins to rise with you.